right, cheers, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Football Forecast as we dive into Week 3 of the high school football season here in the state of Michigan. I'm Lorne Plant, joined by Matt Mowery, Sean Baligian, and Scott Burnstein. So we are ready to get into it. The Football Forecast is presented by Lawrence Technological University. Possible is everything. The MHSAA. If you need all the scores and schedules, go to MHSAA.com. And, of course, Hungry Howie's, one of the best fundraisers you can do with your school if you have an event or anything. It's called Dough Raiser. Check it out at doughRaiser.com. All right, so what I wanted to do is start off with first the games that we're going to be covering on State Champs TV. So this is what you'll be able to see the highlights on Sunday at 9 a.m. on Fox Sports Detroit. First off, and again, we like to kind of get some of the teams on that, we haven't been talking about already so far this season. Want to give everybody a little bit of love and catch up with kind of where these programs are at. And we got a good one, I think, with Warren Mott going to Grosse Pointe South. A good MAC battle here in Week 3. As I was doing some research, I noticed that, Warren Mott outscored their first two opponents, being Skyline and L'Anse Creuse North, 75-19. So they have done well. South beat Renaissance pretty handily. Blanked Utica Ford. I don't have a pulse on what Utica Ford is like this season. They have had good teams in recent memory. Mott got beat by Cache Tech in the first game of the playoffs pretty handily last year, Chip, I think it's Grosse Pointe South got beat by, no, you know what? It was Grosse Pointe South got beat by Cache Tech in Week 1, and it was Mott who lost to Chippewa Valley, both pretty big. So that's kind of the way that things shaped out, but again, both teams 2-0.
Yeah, I saw the Mott team at the Big House, and fast is the key word with them. Very, very fast, led by Trayvon Madison, who's a 10-900 guy, all-state track guy, and he's a blur when you get the ball in his hands. But it's a pretty balanced team, and it's going to be good for them. This year they moved from the MAC Red, where they went 1-4 last year, down to the MAC White.
Yeah.
And Grosse Pointe South is the defending champion of the MAC White. They went 5-0 in division and 0-5 out of division. So that's going to be a good year for Mott to make that move down. They get a senior quarterback in Jake Doobie, who kind of shifts over to running back every once in a while when they got a youngster, James Chaney, who takes over at quarterback. But a lot of weapons and a lot of speed, both on offense and on defense.
Yeah, it's good to see them coming back to the white. I think they felt they were a little overmatched in the red, but they were so good a few years back. I mean, they had a bunch of linemen going, to play.
Guys that were, power conference bound.
Yeah, power conference bound guys, yeah. So
college players.
And they moved them up.
And I know Matt and I, last week, we did our rundown segment, our vlog that posts on Twitter and Facebook, and I called out Warren Mott as one of my big sleepers in the MAC, and I think that they could have a really good year, 7-8 wins in the regular season and possibly make a run in the tournament. So hats off to the Marauders.
This will be a good test because, the Marauders 75-19 and Grosse Pointe South 73-7. So it was interesting before the show started. We were talking about there are a lot of games that we're going to find something out. I don't want to put a name to it like ESPN. There's always a name to a weekend or anything, but this is kind of going to be a revealing weekend in high school football.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Grosse Pointe South, perennially pretty good. So my mouth is waking up here as we keep going. Flushing is traveling to Detroit Country Day. Now, Flushing was beat by Linden by 28 in Week 1, they beat Linden by 28 in Week 1. They lost 16-13 to Swartz Creek last week. Country Day beat Mumford in Week 1, lost handily to UD Jesuit. What do you get a read on this Country Day team?
I really like their quarterback, Elon Mitchell. He's a guy that's a dual threat and is very dynamic under center. They're a little smaller up front this year than they have been in the past. Don't have as many playmakers as maybe they've had in the years where they were churning out power conference bound guys. Even last year they had Colin Demmons, who was a 3-4 star guy. I think that they're still kind of don't want to say reeling, that's the wrong word because Mitchell's really good, but they lost a guy like Jalen Graham a couple years ago who should be in his senior year right now, quarterbacking or playing receiver or playing safety for Country Day. He's over at Cass Tech right now. So whenever you lose a playmaker like that, you're going to have to kind of go back to the drawing board. I think Mitchell has replaced Graham as that go-to playmaker. And, I don't know. It's hard to tell when you have a team like Jesuit matches up with Country Day, the school size and it's not the most encouraging thing that they lost as bad as they did.
Right.
But I expect this Country Day team to still make it into the playoffs.
Because they didn't last year.
Yeah, I think this year they're gonna get 6 wins, and anything can happen once you hit October, November. But with a playmaker like Mitchell, you got a puncher's chance in any game.
I wonder, to your point, if it was a little bit of a bounce back for UAD, the up down, because they were bound to bounce back. How much do we put into that? I think we're going to find out in this one.
Yeah, Flushing won this game last year, 26-19.
Flushing was one of the surprise teams a little bit last year. They make the playoffs, and they beat both Lowell and league rival Fenton, and then they lost to Livonia Franklin in the last seconds on a field goal. So that was a pretty good team last year. Reloaded a little bit, and they also lost defensive back Aiden Harrison, who ended up in New Missouri guy.
He's at
went
New
to New
Lothrop
Lothrop, which is huge for a Division 7-8 team, wherever the Hornets are. But there are 5 teams at 1-1 in the conference in the Flint Metro right now.
And then Brandon's 2-0.
Yeah, and it's one of those where Flushing is right in that pack of 1-1 teams that could. But again, this is kind of a show me week. Show us that you're the similar team that you were last year.
It would be a real change of pace if we have a new champion in the Flint Metro. Fenton is the 7-time defending champion over there. Mm-hmm. They've won 5 straight outright, and then 2 before that they shared. So Brandon seems to be the front runner right now, but all these 1-on-1 teams, you'll never know. You never know what's going to happen as the season progresses.
Yeah, and if they can beat Country Day at Country Day, that would be another feather in their cap. Game that we're going to see both in Indiana and Michigan. This is our first crossover of the state champs universe. Mishawaka Penn coming here to take on Orchard Lake St. Mary's. For those who aren't familiar with Penn, they're 2-1 this year. Went to the state finals last year and lost to Ben Davis.
6A.
Yeah, 6A,
the
big boys.
I remember a year or two ago, they came to play Brother Rice, and it was one of those things where the bus shows up and you're standing outside the bus and they start flowing out, and they keep flowing out, and they keep flowing out, and they keep flowing. And you're like, what? And then you think there's another bus coming. They had 80 guys on the sideline. It's just one of those powerhouse programs in Indiana. I remember when I was going to school at IU back in the 90s, they were one of the juggernauts, the stalwarts there. This year, last year, and then for the next 2 years, they got a blue chip quarterback in Ron Paulus Jr. You might recognize the name. His dad.
Isn't it Ron Paulus the
third? It might be the third.
Yeah.
Ronnie, they call him Ronnie Paulus. His dad, quarterback at Notre Dame, one of the most celebrated high school quarterbacks of the last 40 or 50 years. I mean, he was a god in Pennsylvania. Came to Notre Dame, broke a lot of records. Ended up as a backup quarterback in the NFL for 4 or 5 years. Has been a coach in the college ranks, and his son is just is the real deal, as advertised, as you would think, coming from that bloodline. And last week,
I was gonna say
they went down to the wire with Brother Rice. Brother Rice came up with a victory. So it'll be interesting to see coming now. They'll come over across the border and come to the red field at
the red
St. Mary's.
It hasn't been pretty for the Eaglets either. I mean, they've given up 91 points already. I mean,
and I don't know if this game makes me a little nervous. How many?
Absolutely.
Could be staring at 0-3.
Absolutely.
And they gave up 20 points in every game last year, and obviously that trend is continuing, and it's not a good trend that they're on right now.
Yeah, with that said, they did score 43 last week. If their defense can have some semblance of, playing well, but and they only lost by 4 to Dakota, so Dakota we think is a good, solid program. So they've had good competition. Sometimes, you get caught in the weeds with if you play 2 good teams back-to-back weeks, and you're 0-2, maybe you're not as bad.
They had a run there, Orchard Lake St. Mary's, that's kind of dried up a little bit in the last 2 years in terms of high-level playmakers, guys that are being recruited at the next level. On those state championship teams, you had half dozen guys that were going to go play big-time college football. Last year,
they didn't even make the playoffs.
No,
right?
they didn't. They had
Yeah.
Caden Priestcorn, the quarterback that led them to the state championship the year before.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, you didn't have a ton of guys. This year, not a ton of college level guys. The one guy that's being recruited relatively heavily is Cam Arnold, a wide receiver, defensive back, and they moved their receiver Anthony Nchukwu from wide receiver to quarterback. So he's maybe experienced some growing pains to getting comfortable in the pocket and whatnot, changing positions. But the Catholic League is just so tough, and unfortunately, if you give yourself an 0-3 start before you even hit Catholic League Central play, it might be a long year.
Yeah. Well, we had an opportunity to give some smaller schools some love. Also this week on the show, we got Climax Scots coming to town. So we're going to give them some run. They're going to Clarkson Everest. And the nice thing about what Everest has been able to do is, they feel like they're
a program that got off the ground not that long ago,
right,
and had immediate success.
Yes. And the first couple,
from Lakes,
right? And the first couple of weeks, they rolled Oak Christian and rolled Lutheran Northwest. So
and they got a really good small school quarterback in Nino Mastro Mateo, he is a guy that's for that level is incredibly electrifying. And any snap he can either throw it or run it for a touchdown.
That's right.
It's a very Everest collegiate name, Mastro Mateo. There
Yes,
about
exactly.
47 of
He's
them.
got some. Yeah, I was gonna say he's got some brothers that have and sisters that have come down the
sisters,
pike in the past.
Kevin Langs has done such a good job out there too. I mean, Climax is a really small community. I mean, it's very small. It's between Battle Creek and Kalamazoo. And done a tremendous job there for years. But to your point, I mean, here's a school in Everest. They're another school. They're outscoring their opponents 71-13 so far. So I'm intrigued. I get to go out there next week and see them in the Catholic League. I'm intrigued to see what's going on out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the last year of 11-man football for Climax, so they're going to 8-man next year, and this is kind of the last hurrah. They've made the playoffs, as you said.
They'll be traveling a lot.
15 straight years of playoffs. So, and last year I would not have been wanting to cover the 84-62 win in the playoffs over Fulton. They can score some points at Climax. It's primarily on the ground.
Well,
so
that's
it's going to
good
be
because in 8-man, that's pretty much all they do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah, they'll be doing a lot of traveling in that. Although 8-man is, or 8-player, I should say, has grown.
What's so impressive about what Everest has been able to do is they've only been a program by themselves since 2013. They made the playoffs every year.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yep. So something that Clarkston,
Yeah.
man. Tell you, the community, man, they just breed football players.
And last year they won a district.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, the game that I'll be filming is number 24 Canton at Plymouth. So Plymouth coming in 2-0, Canton 1-1. Bounce back game for Canton last weekend, that's for sure.
2 new coaches.
Blank Northville, man. I was really surprised.
That's a darn good Northville team, and Matt Laddick's done a really good job out in Northville, and to beat them the way that they beat them at Northville, that's a statement.
Yeah, well, and again, they fell to Churchill, and I'm sure they were just reeling from that. New coaches at both schools. Plymouth has beaten Livonia Stevenson, beat Howell. You saw that game. I was going to remind people, Plymouth missed the playoffs a year ago, so they were 4-5. Canton went toe-to-toe with Detroit Catholic Central in the regional final, lost 27-26. So this is a program that we are expecting to, again, be one of those teams that you never know could be a dark horse in Canton. But here comes Plymouth at 2-0, strong out of the gate. This should be a really fun, renewed rivalry. 2 new coaches starting a new rivalry.
Yeah, and I saw the Plymouth team at the Big House, and they've played in 2 kind of odd situations because you play in the Big House, and that's weird because it's so big, and then they go on the road to Howell, and they play as Howell's renaming their field for their longtime coach.
Right.
So that's a hostile environment. Mm-hmm. They finally get to go home to the campus and play there for the first time, which will be nice for them. And they've got some weapons. Carson Miller, 295 yards on 41 totes last week.
Right.
They got a really young, energetic head coach in Brian Lewis. Quarterback De La Salle to the state championship game 10, 11, 12 years ago.
Right.
Had some big shoes to fill in replacing Coach Sawchuk, who had taken them to a state finals berth, and to get off and running at 2-0, and that's
And we talked
Lewis.
about Steve Walker in our Extra Point podcast that we did. Seems like we just did that yesterday. Exactly. I think that if we're going to have a couple, rumble, stumble, knock me over kind of games, and that'll be typical of Canton and Plymouth. So they've had a pretty good rivalry over the years.
And Coach LaFada had been in the program under Coach Beckler.
Yeah.
So, there hasn't been, it's not as much of a change than you get from Sawcheck to Lewis, who was coming into the program.
Yeah, the final game that will be on State Champs this week, Sunday at 9 on Fox Sports Detroit. Our main event, number 13, Farmington Hills Harrison, traveling to number 7, Oak Park. This is a 6 o'clock start.
Yep.
Dandy. Harrison, I mean, what can you say? I mean, the living legend at the helm, outscore their opponents 82-0. I think I can say for all of us, we all like this Oak Park team. I mean, there's so much talent there. They found a way to get it done at the Prep Kickoff Classic. Really, what appears to be a slugfest win over Groves last week, this is going to be a dandy. I'm glad you picked it for main event. This is going to be a dandy of a game.
And Roderick Hurd's been running the heck out of the ball for
I'm going to
Harrison.
be there, and like Sean said, I mean, we're talking about the godfather of Michigan high school football, and John Harrington, just the most magnanimous type of, for someone that has achieved that kind of success, to be as humble and
the definition
as accessible as he is.
The definition of a guy you want to have a beer with.
I've never
definition.
I call the guy. He always picks up the phone.
Besides
You're
Sean,
never
of course.
chasing him. He's a master tactician, a master motivator, someone that knows the game inside and out, has seen it all, has coached thousands of kids, literally thousands of kids.
How do they match up against Oak Park?
Well, I think you're going to see that a really two strong running games.
Yep.
Whether Toriano Richardson's back or not, it doesn't seem to matter because Philip Stewart's running.
Yeah, he's doing great.
Is just been a real star in replacements. Gone over 100 years. Has gone over 100 yards.
Yep.
Both games. You got a quarterback in Dwan Mathis who's heavily hyped going to Ohio State against a quarterback in Max Martin who no one really knew about. Didn't win the job until the last couple days before the start of the season, and he's looked outstanding. Had 4 touchdowns last week throwing against Athens. He's a kid who's athletic and has size, but just didn't have the experience.
Right. They know how to get the quarterbacks going in Harrison.
Defensively,
Got a little bit of
matching
pedigree.
up against Mathis, you're going to have Roderick Hurd, their super stud tailback that just runs wild. Last year, ran for 1,500 yards and 23 touchdowns, led him to the state championship game. He is, one of the best lockdown cover corners in the states, going to Northwestern. But you also got guys like Sylvan Brown, a junior linebacker who I really like. Big upside on him. Vince Rawls, another guy that can play linebacker, defensive line. He also, because of the size issue, the numbers issue with Harrison closing, most guys are playing on both sides of the ball. Maverick Hansen, another guy, he's going to Central Michigan, plays on the offensive and defensive line. But Vince Rawls, I think really his first handful of snaps this first 2 weeks of the season on offense, had 2 touchdown catches last week.
So we're expecting a close game.
Well, and after Malik Carr went out of that Oak Park Groves game, they really shut it down, and I think they were going to pass a little more than they did end up passing.
Right.
Dwan Mathis only threw a handful of passes in that game. I think it's going to be we want to run the ball and not pass, versus Harrison kind of came into the season, as you mentioned, not knowing if Max Martin was going to kind of step up and take that job.
It was between him and David
We're not
Heiser.
sure if we can pass the ball. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of running, and this may be a 6 p.m. start and a 7:15 finish.
Which would be just fine for our camera guy, that's for sure.
The special teams play nod has to go to Harrison. They got David Heiser, who was in the race for the quarterback spot, lost at the last second, but one of the best place kickers in the OAA. And if the game comes down to the wire and you need a reliable leg, Harrington just has to look over the sideline and point to Heiser, who had some big kicks last year.
So some other games of interest around the state involving our top 25, Matt Mowery's top 25, which you can check out right now at statechampsnetwork.com. He has, if you go to the news page, he's got kind of capsules that talk about the reasoning for his selections. And, of course, you can just get the straight list at our rankings list. A couple things I noticed, we obviously are going to be following Muskegon close all season long. We know about what's happening. I think we're going to talk more about teams from the West this year than we have in some time. East Grand Rapids is one of those teams. A couple teams here we're going to talk about that I think if all of a sudden we're not talking about anymore. EGR lost to Cedar Springs by a point in the first round of the playoffs last year. I remember that. That was really surprising because they had a real kind of resurgence since Sturtisma has left the helm there. They lost to Zeeland East in week 1, beat Forest Hills Northern by 6 in week 2. Obviously, we know what Muskegon brings. This is their first road game, but that environment at East Grand Rapids, if you haven't been in it, it's right in the middle of a community and a house. It's going to be loud, and it's going to be interesting. I think it's interesting.
Well, it's not a true trap game because obviously those Muskegon kids know how good that East Grand Rapids program was, even though it's not at the level that Peter Sturzman had it before he went off to Hope. But you know that they were circling the first week with De La Salle,
yes,
circling the second week with
yes.
King,
yes,
and then next week the OK Black division gets going.
Yeah.
So and this is a tweener game at least where, it's going to be. They know how good that team is, and they know that East Grand Rapids team, but it's going to be hard to get up to the level that they've been at just of, emotion for the last couple of weeks. And that's one that can be the recipe for it being a very close game, certainly.
I want to echo your sentiments because when I looked at this game, that's exactly what I thought. I mean, you got King, you got DLS. The job this week to me is to refocus to say, guys, this is East Grand Rapids. Yeah. This isn't some school way up wherever. No, this is a pretty good team that would love nothing more, dare I say, make their season type of stuff than to knock off the big boy. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. But with that being said, you got to get your guys focused. Yeah. This one could be more difficult than it needs to be.
Well, you think about this too, and for those who played high school football, you know how it is. You work hard all summer, you get a first. After about the second game, that's when you start feeling a little beat up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you're starting to whatever you've got. You're not at 100%, let's just put it that way. And considering that they had to go up against a gritty De La Salle defense that wanted to punch them in the mouth, and then to do it against King with all those D1 players, these guys, I think, are going to be, a little, sore. For lack of a better term, and so and East Grand Rapids is going to bring it. They're at home. They're going to come out strong. So again, I don't know if it's going to sway the score, but I think this is going to be a battle.
Muskegon just has that blistering run attack.
They do.
With that just brick house of an offensive line. Road grading the way for Cam Martinez to have it,
trenches.
To have his way. But we've shouted out Anthony Bradford. Another guy I'd like to shout out is Marquise Cooper, who's kind of an Anthony Bradford Jr. He's a underclassman that's just starting to get some traction in his recruiting profile. But he's been another big linchpin in that line, clearing the way for Martinez. And I expect more of the same from both Bradford and Cooper this week.
Well, there's no question Muskegon is not ducking anyone. So if they're gonna be and they want to be number one, they're gonna earn it by this stretch. Chippewa Valley is taking on Utica Eisenhower.
Touchdown, Tommy Schuster.
Yes, exactly.
That's my man. That's my main man.
We've got Chip number 8 right now. We've got Eisenhower 15. Again, this is one of those ones you can throw the records out the window too when these two get together. Two big schools and always a big matchup and a great environment again at Eisenhower.
This is one where you kind of want to set the tone, whichever school you are, is say, this is our division race to win. And for so long, I mean, 4 of the last 4 games between these two have gone to Chippewa. Have gone to Eisenhower.
Yeah.
6 of the last 8, and they're 35-6 overall against Chippewa Valley. If there's a school that Chippewa Valley wants to kind of go, nah, we're the big boys now.
Yeah.
This is kind of it. This is why we want to get that bully off our back. And obviously, as we've pointed out, they've got all kinds of weapons. They've got a great defense. Both teams are like that, though. 9 starters back on offense for Eisenhower. So this could be one that ends up a little high scoring because these two teams know each other pretty well too, these coaching staffs.
And as much as I love Tommy Schuster on the Chip side, I'm just a ginormous fan of Caleb Oyster on the Ike side. He is just a playmaker personified, one of these versatile running back that's just as tough, going up the middle between the tackles, going around, beating the defense to the edge, getting the sideline, or going out into the flat and catching passes.
Yeah, likes that screen pass, yeah, exactly. And he can dart. He kind of has that Golden Tate kind of feel when he's out and down.
And Blake Rastigi, for having to fill the shoes of a Max Whitmer, who just
Max Whitwer,
who was just one of the best quarterbacks Macomb County's seen in a long time. Has just done a very good job and is very steady, very reliable, and is only going to get better as the season goes on.
Yeah, so that's going to be a great matchup. Holland West Ottawa, we've got them ranked number 17, going to Rockford. Now, when was the last kind of few shows that we've never talked?
Coach Munger?
We haven't talked about Rockford at all this year, whether it was at our preseason shows or our first few weeks. They took on Loyola from Illinois, who is they went 13-2 last year.
I actually had a fraternity brother that coaches over there. Was a star.
They're always strong. So that's no shame to lose by 20 to them. I mean, obviously playing them is going to make you better. They just blanked Lowell 36-0. Now, I don't know anything about Lowell this year, this post, era, post-Dean era. But regardless of that,
AD after Dean.
Yes. Regardless of that, it's Rockford. You know what I mean? And it's a big school and it's a big program with a lot of pride. Holland West Ottawa is feeling really good about themselves right now, right?
I know Coach Oshnak. He's a friend of mine. Even if he wasn't a friend of mine, these words are true. Yeah. He's done a tremendous job there. And it's great to see you and others kind of recognizing what he's done in a couple of years.
Big win last week.
Big win. Overtime thriller. I mean, you're playing one of the best players in the state. More on that in a little bit. Yeah. But I think it's kind of put into focus the job that Ryan's done. You might remember Bernie. He was a darn good player at Wayne State. He's been able to coach at Ferris. He was with Coach Anise up there. He was at Eastern Michigan for a while, doing a heck of a job at Holland West Ottawa. Really, really happy for him.
So they're going to be fired up coming in. They're like, we got a chance. We can beat Rockford too. I mean, they've got to be feeling really good about it.
One of the storylines in the offseason was that he was a finalist for the Walled Lake Western job. Mm-hmm. So he was contemplating coming down to Metro Detroit and putting his imprint down here in the Big D. And I think it was a question of him not being able to get a job in the building. Okay. But lucky for West Ottawa, he returned, and I'm sure that they couldn't. They're thanking their lucky stars that he's back on the sidelines, because he is a first class sideline general.
No doubt.
Well, and Holland West Ottawa traditionally hasn't had a whole lot of success against Rockford. I think 39-11-1 is the series in Rockford's favor.
Yeah.
But last year, 35-30 of the regular season they won, 33-28 in the district final.
Wow.
And it's only one other time all last season did Rockford give up more than 14 points. And this may again be one of those shootout games, because starting to become one of my favorite players is Isaac Van Dyke, who has 222 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns and 431 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. I mean,
so I didn't see that. So West Ottawa beat them twice last year.
Yeah.
Wow. Yep. So Rockford, again, being at home, coming off a big win for them, just in terms of in name alone, beating Lowell the way they did. It's going to be very interesting, and one that we think you should pay attention to. Another one, number 19, Saline, we have going to Ypsilanti Lincoln. You wouldn't think that would be something that would be super interesting, but we're going to talk about one of their players in the recruit report a little bit later, and talking about Ypsilanti Lincoln's players a little later in the show.
They've got, I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
Yeah,
here.
I know.
They have a basketball player coming in as a freshman this year, the best freshman
in the country.
Take it for what it's worth when you're ranking 14-year-olds.
Yes, I know.
Best freshman in the country, Amani Bates.
Yes.
He's
not playing football, though.
I don't think so, but he is a sight to be seen on the basketball
floor. You are getting really ahead of yourself.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention
That's all right. I know. We were trying.
I felt like I needed to mention him.
We were trying to get him in our state champs winter jam. We were trying to get Ypsilanti. We couldn't work that out, but we got Ypsilanti instead. But they're a good program too. But Lincoln blew out Adrian. They blew out Tecumseh in the first 2 weeks. You can only beat who's in front of you, but those are two programs that have had success.
They do have Trayvon Davis, though, who's one of the best running backs in that side of the state.
And again, when you're playing a neighborhood school like Saline, you want to beat them, especially if they feel that Saline is what gets the attention and all that, and they just kind of get swept aside.
This is one that I personally circled. We talked about at the beginning of the show here, revealing. I think we're going to find out how good Ypsilanti Lincoln is, and that's not to disrespect Adrian and Tecumseh. That's not to disrespect them, but we're going to get a better gauge on what they are this week.
If they can win this game, they certainly would.
Well, and they haven't played each other since 2011.
Okay, wow.
But they haven't beaten Saline since 1987, when I was starting high school, so that's ancient history.
Yeah.
But again, when you haven't played in a while, obviously those don't matter a whole lot. But we're going to see what Saline is too, because they've still had. We talked about this on the last show that they had some quarterback issues, and they had to turn to the Wildcat a little bit to get a spark. And we'll kind of see if they start settling that in a little bit and getting more of a refined attack as they finally start to move into the regular season.
Yeah.
They had the best season. Lincoln had the best season in school history last year. They're trying to build off that.
Right.
We mentioned Trayvon Davis, one of the best running backs in the Ann Arbor area. I consider Ypsilanti, part of that area, and but they have a nice quarterback in Ethan Rose as well.
Okay.
Very, a little bit more than a game manager, a guy that can go 10 of 15 for 120, 25 yards and throw some touchdowns. So.
I mean, in the 15 years we've done state champs, I think we've had highlights of Ypsi Lincoln maybe twice. They had a guy who had the serious flow going. He had like the
dreads?
lettuce a few years ago, blonde kid.
Oh, blonde, white
kid. White kid. Yeah, you remember what I'm saying? And that was like, they finally had
Tim Riggins look from Friday Night Lights?
Yes, exactly. I can't even remember the kid's name, but that was it. It was like they finally are starting to get some playmakers, and so good on them. We'll see. It'll be an interesting matchup. We'll see what happens. A couple more I just want to touch on quick. Granville, they've kind of had a slog here, the first couple of weeks. Tough games, tough losses. Grand Rapids, Forest Hill Central is where they're going. We've got them ranked number 20 in the state.
Well, in Forest Hill Central, I mean, both of them are coming off losses that they would certainly like to forget. And this is one of those games, again, as this is kind of becoming a show-me week, as I said earlier, that one of these teams is going to get a leg forward, and one of them is going to be really sitting back going, where's our season going?
We've got to win the rest of our games now.
And they're both very good teams, so that's not the issue. It's just once you start to get that far behind the 8 ball at either 1-2 or 0-3, that really sets you back in trying to make the playoffs, and now you basically have to run the table.
These are the kind of games you love to go to because both teams know that this is huge.
Bad time to catch the other. I mean, really, it is. It's in a perfect world, hey, great, you're coming off an overtime win as opposed to an overtime loss. So that's what's going to make this one so intriguing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. One more we do want to touch on, Davison, who has now climbed into our top 25. They're taking on a very good Flint-Carman Ainsworth team who really played well last week.
I'm excited for this game.
Yeah, talk about it.
Well, you got Cannon Hall, best name of any quarterback in the state.
Yes,
going
awesome.
to Northwood, quarterback at Davison, just a guy that can beat you with his legs, beat you with his feet, beat you with his intelligence. A true leader in the huddle.
Yeah.
And he's got a really nice playmaker, a wide receiver, in Brendan Sullivan. And then you move over to Flint-Carman Ainsworth. You got the Fletcher brothers.
Yes, sir.
Mike Fletcher, one of the best defensive ends in the Midwest, going to Michigan State. And then you got his brother, who doesn't get really anywhere near the hype or anywhere near the accolades that Mike gets. But Dustin Fletcher, he's a southpaw, one of the best quarterbacks in the class of 2020, already has an SEC offer from Kentucky, and just a guy that made huge strides in this offseason in his ability to read defenses and ability to understand the game, and you put that together with his natural physical attributes. The guy's about 6'3", 6'4", big arm. He could be a really scary prospect going forward, and he's looked good these first 2 weeks. And then they both play basketball, and they took Carman Ainsworth to the Class A quarterfinals.
Yeah, all right. Go ahead.
He was the most valuable player of the Saginaw Valley League South last year, and so I mean, Big Brother gets a lot of the accolades and deservedly so, but he's a very good player in his own right. And
he can come play at Lawrence Tech.
Yeah, they rolled up 413 yards of offense last week against a Midland team that doesn't happen against very often.
I just heard so much in the summer about what
grade is little brother in?
He's a junior.
Okay.
Just about how the improvement that he had made in the kind of the technique. Obviously, the physical attributes and the natural athleticism boded well for him last year, but the jump that he made over the offseason with his ability to really understand the game and exploit gaps in defenses. I was talking to Alan True, and he was our recruiting guru, who we'll talk to soon.
Yes.
Just the level of improvement that Dustin made over the offseason.
That's awesome. All right, so I'm going to save our predictions for a little bit later in the program. So we want to kind of tease you, keep you watching the podcast. We're going to take a timeout right now. When we come back, we're going to talk briefly about our Hungry Howie's Mr. Football race. We do have a new entrant, we do have an exit, and we do have a new guy into our watch list. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. So stay with us. And like Scott mentioned, Alan True coming up with a nice recruit report a little later. So stay with us. You don't want to miss it. Hang in there.
My passion is architecture. I don't want to sit around passively studying. I need to create. In our architecture studios at Lorne Tech, we collaborate with students, faculty, and professionals from around the world. And from day one, we design using the same industry standard software that architecture firms use. I really feel like I'm designing my own future here. Lorne Tech. Possible is everything.
Today I'd like to introduce you to the 2018-19 Student Advisory Council. They'll be reciting the MHSAA Student Athlete Belief Statement.
As the voice of Michigan student athletes, the Student Advisory Council's role
is to convey the message of how high school sports are supposed to be played.
We are responsible for helping MHSAA maintain a positive and healthy atmosphere
in which interscholastic athletes can thrive.
We believe athletes should be competitive,
sportsmanlike, and excel academically.
We believe students in the stands should have fun,
but not take the focus away from the game.
We believe coaches should act as teachers, helping student athletes develop,
while still keeping high school sports in perspective.
We believe that parents should always be positive role models
and be supportive of their child's decisions.
We believe officials commit their own time to high school sports,
and respect should always be shown and given to them.
The most important goal for student athletes is to enjoy high school sports,
while keeping a high level of respect for all those involved in the games.
For more information about the Student Advisory Council, visit our website at
MHSAA.com.
You ready, Darius?
Let's do it. Anybody want an autograph?
Autograph? We're here for the stuffed crust pizza.
Stuffed crust pizza? Hey, who do you think you are? End of the line, pal.
Flavor fanatics love stuffing their faces with our stuffed flavored crust. Get one for only $2 more on any large original round pizza.
Hungry? Howie's!
All right, welcome back to the Football Forecast presented by Lawrence Tech, the MHSAA, and Hungry Howie's. Okay, guys, so Hungry Howie's Mr. Football race has been interesting so far. Every year, it seems like it takes on its own identity pretty early, and I think what we've seen here is that we've just got guys just itching to get into the top 10, and in some cases we just can't keep them out.
And the fact that races are like that speaks to the tremendous amount of depth that this state has. In just great football players, great high school football.
And after our preseason decision that we were going to have an Anvil Award and kind of move the linebackers and linemen into their own competition, rightly so, we can have the real playmakers here for Mr. Football really battle it out. And again, we've had some really great individual performances so far. We do have a change, and this is something
I was campaigning for last week.
You were. He was on our watch list, and what we're doing is Trey Mosley from West Bloomfield. We are dropping out of our top 10 for right now. He certainly has going to have a lot of opportunities to play his way back into the race.
But West Bloomfield hasn't thrown a touchdown.
Right, exactly. So
in 2 weeks. So
right.
It's
so they're figuring some things out, and so naturally you fall off just by default.
We're breaking in a new quarterback. I'm sure that as the season goes on, Trey Mosley will catch his fair share.
Absolutely. And speaking of quarterbacks, the fine one representing the purple from Madison Heights, Madison, Austin Brown, the former Detroit Catholic Central quarterback.
The Brown Bomber.
Yes, and that's exactly what he's been. Has moved in. For those who don't follow D6 football, he is. It's actually his fourth year as a starting quarterback.
Started at Catholic Central his freshman and sophomore year.
Yeah, I forgot that he started.
He's got some sick overall win-loss record.
Yeah,
something like 25-1, some ridiculous number.
Yeah, well, he is been playing lights out football.
It's so weird because I had a chance to do his first home game at Catholic Central, and they lost to Whitmer that particular night. But the poise that he showed as a freshman, what he's turned into, you hit on it just a couple minutes ago. You couldn't keep him off. I mean, the numbers, what he's done, and this isn't a lifetime achievement award. I mean, you could make an argument that this is a kid that should be on there for lifetime achievement.
Sure.
But what he's done so far this year, boom, he's on the list. Period.
He's the Drew Brees of the MHSAA, a guy that's undersized but can make all the throws. Yep. Just the level of swagger and moxie that he brings to the field. At Wayne State, what I was so impressed with was that the PKC was that he was like 10 of 12 throwing the ball, but like all of his completions were on his second and third progressions. Mm-hmm. Just cool as a cucumber back in the pocket. Great velocity on his release. Great touch, accuracy, efficiency. He's the total package as a quarterback.
Yeah, has decided he would rather.
He's going to play baseball at Marshall, but he's also going to walk on the football team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good.
So he'll be a two-sport star at the Division I, or two-sport athlete at the Division I level down in West Virginia. Well deserving to be put on this list.
Very football crazy town in Huntington, West Virginia as well. He could be a legend down there if that works out the way that I think we all expect it to work out. But boy, he's been a joy to watch. I mean, 4 years. Think about that. I mean, he's really been on the public radar for 4 years.
There's no doubt, and I think Madison is really poised for a long run. And I think it was. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I had him winning the whole thing, and he
got hurt.
Yeah, that's right.
He led him to the state championship and got hurt in the state semifinals. That would have been 16 during his sophomore year.
Okay.
And just to point out about his transfer, it's kind of an outlier. His transfer really had nothing to do with football.
Right. Well, his father's
so his
the
dad's
athletic
director at Madison. That's his hometown. His brother is at the school, and he was just moving back. Going from Madison Heights out to Wixom every day was a bit of a haul. This was a situation where he wanted to come back home and play with his buddies that he had grown up with. This really had nothing to do with football. I mean, going from a Division I superpower down to Division VII. I mean, I think it would be hard to say that was football related.
Well, he also wants to throw the ball a little, and they don't
they
don't do a whole lot of that at Catholic Central.
But to Coach Mac's credit, when Braun was there,
I know
they opened it up. They opened it up. He was throwing the ball
a little bit.
12. No, he was throwing the ball between 10 and 15 times a game. Yeah. I mean, it's different now where he's throwing the ball maybe 25 times a game.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, that opened up a space on our watch list. So you've been banging the drum for the running back for Muskegon, Mona Shores. He certainly is somebody that is on a lot of radars right now.
Yeah,
Sincere Dent.
Yep.
Another great football name.
Yeah. Picked up an offer from Ferris after week 1. So, I mean, he's been 8 touchdowns now in 2 weeks, and it's not like they've been dodging competition either. He's not doing that against the Little Sisters of the Poor.
Right.
He's been pounding the ball, and he's one of the bigger running backs that really will punch the ball in there. And he's somebody, at least numbers-wise right now, I certainly think belongs.
Is he a senior?
Yes.
He's a senior? Okay.
And let me tell you something. Ferris has turned into a monster in Division II. I mean, they really
both sports.
That's where
football
he's going.
And basketball.
Yeah. And I know you talked about commitment. Yeah. That is a good location to be. And every year it seems like Tony Anise has this electrifying offense. And they've kind of become, with all respect and a tip of the cap to Grand Valley, I think they've kind of become the bully, if you will.
We've reached a point, though, where getting an offer from Ferris State or getting an offer from Grand Valley is almost the equivalent of getting a Division I offer. I mean, it's for all intents and purposes, you're playing Division I football.
Yeah.
Quarterback this year, J. Rue Campbell.
Yep.
Who's finally found a place. And
Deshaun Thrower is there right now.
Yep.
And
playing both sports.
Yeah, I know. They took a picture recently, posted like a couple of cast-offs, making it for the Bulldogs.
Well, Thrower had gone to play basketball at Stony.
Yeah, I know, and then came. But again, everyone had doubted he had no football left in him. It was going to be strictly basketball. He certainly proved them wrong. But again, he played for Muskegon. Tony Anise, he knew that. That was a no-brainer. The J. Rue Campbell, experiment is probably going to really work.
Ferris, but tip of the cap
for
to
sure.
Jay Rue for getting his life in order, and being able to get focused in his athletics and his academics and landing on his feet.
And I believe they have the running back from Davison last year is at Ferris State. What's his name? Who was our Mr. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name.
Tariq Reed.
Tariq Reed, who was coming. We thought we had him here at Lawrence Tech.
I thought he was Grand Valley.
Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Oh well, we don't have to edit this, whatever. We're just having a conversation. It doesn't matter if we get it. But regardless
he
of
might
that,
be Ferris, but I thought he was Grand Valley.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Sincere Dent is going there, at least for now. His stock may rise so much he might go somewhere else.
Did he get an order?
He just got
an offer.
He came into the season without any offers, and that was his first.
So he hasn't even committed there yet. All
No.
right. So now we are clear. The record is set. So, but again, we want you to vote in our Hungry Howie's Mr. Football race. I'm going to give props to the Walled Lake Western fans out there. They have kept Sam Johnson in the list. Granted, Milford is a team that is definitely in transition and trying to grow. He had 3 touchdowns, 8 of 14 passing. Added another touchdown on the ground on a 20-yard run last weekend. So
didn't play a lot in the second half.
Yeah, didn't need to play. But he's in because you have kept him in. So he had over 4,500 votes coming into. We taped this on Wednesday. So he is up. Jaron Mangum actually is about 1,000 votes behind him. So those are our top 2 guys right now when it comes to the fan vote. And why is that important? Well, number 1, he can never be removed from the race no matter what happens. Number 2, he has an automatic entry into our Final Four, the one who ends up being the online vote king. And that again, and if you understand the history of this award, that factors in when we make our final decision. It really has, i.e. Cody White. Okay, so that's where we're at. Make sure you go ahead and vote often if you can at statechampsnetwork.com. We want to hear from you too. We don't know everybody and everything that's happening out there. There are always kids that are having great seasons. We have been getting some contact emails that have been good for us to keep an eye on players here and there. A lot of times they're parents, and that's good because I'd be selling my son if he was having a great season and deserving of being considered one of the top football players in the state. That's the beauty of this award. We don't care what class you're in, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, it doesn't matter. And it also doesn't matter if you happen to be some big D1 recruit.
Tariq Reed was in the Final Four as a junior.
Yes,
as a junior. Who we were just talking
Alex
about with
Malzone
Davidson.
was in the final as a junior. Final Four as a junior. So, yes, and I believe there will be a day that we have a sophomore or somebody that is in our Final Four just because that's the way it's trending, young and talented. So, and again, you can be an 8 player if you are just dominating your field, and we feel that you are someone that is heads and tails above others. So, that's the deal. Make sure you do it. StateChampsNetwork.com is where you vote. We are going to be right back. We've got Alan True on the line. We're going to have our Michigan Student Aid Recruit Report coming up next and talk about some hot commodities in the recruiting world next.
I want to be a dermatologist, and though a lot of universities tried to recruit me for basketball, Lawrence Tech had the science curriculum that I wanted. LTU's Southfield campus is a great place to learn, and the classes are small enough that I don't have to wait for office hours to talk to my professors. They're usually right by my side, challenging me and guiding me toward a successful future. Lawrence Tech. Possible is everything.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's, Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for 1 medium pizza at participating locations.
Hungry Howie's makes it easy. It's just a little mini pizza box, but we make lots of money, lots of dough.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
All right, we're back for one more segment, and we are going to give you our predictions for what we talked about earlier. I'm enjoying the predictions this season more than ever because I am clearly
doing really well.
I'm clearly beating everyone. But we are now, as you can see, right there in the middle of your screen. Alan True of 24/7 Sports is here. He is here with the Michigan Student Aid Recruit Report. Make sure you watch these both on our State Champs Michigan and Indiana shows. He gives you kind of a minute and a half recap of what's going on. Here we get an opportunity to talk talk to Alan and get a little more in depth on some of the guys that are making waves right now. And Alan, you sent me the 4 of you guys who would like to go. 2 come from Clarkston. We've been talking about both these guys for the first couple of weeks.
The OC Bruise brothers.
Yeah, no doubt. Garrett Dillinger and Rocco Spindler.
Well, it doesn't get a whole lot better than those two when you talk about young prospects in the state of Michigan. Those guys we had our initial 24/7 top 100 in the country. Those guys were number 2, Dillinger was, and number 10, Spindler was.
Wow.
And I think when you think about what they did last year, those guys played both ways on a state title team. They deserve it. Spindler obviously has the great bloodlines. Dillinger the same, though. His older brother played at Kent State. His dad played college basketball. He played not only, he plays football on the state championship football team last year, then he steps over and plays on one of the state's best basketball teams as a freshman. So that's that's a heck of an accomplishment for a kid that's 6'5", 250, 260. So those guys are clearly big-time guys. Ohio State, Michigan, and have all offered, and then Notre Dame just offered Dillinger over the weekend when he went down there. So if you don't believe my word for it, those 4 schools, I think, know a thing or two about talent, and they don't offer a ton of guys too early. They've all offered both of those kids.
Alan, do you think they'll both be 5 stars by next year?
They would have to, they'd have to fall apart for that to happen, and I don't think for that not to happen. I mean, and I don't see that happening. Those kids both seem like they come from really good backgrounds. Like I said, grown up around sports. They've got the right people around them as far as their parents and coaches making sure that, they don't get a big head from all this. I don't get any sense from those kids that this is affecting them at all. Those guys go out and play hard every week. They work hard. I think those guys are going to be every bit the part of 5-star prospects when that time comes.
And I would imagine then also next summer at the camps, everyone's going to want to come see these kids.
Yeah, they've already done a couple, but because they do other sports, Dillinger's playing basketball. They don't always get an opportunity to. But I think their film speaks for itself. And I had a chance to see them both at Michigan State's camp, and this is them going into their sophomore year, and they were hanging right there with all of Michigan State's best junior and senior prospects.
They were everywhere.
These guys are studs.
They were everywhere last week against West Bloomfield. I mean, every play on offense and on defense.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's impressive. 2 young guys playing every snap. Those guys are obviously in really great condition, and they're mentally conditioned to go, a full game against a really good team. And obviously, West Bloomfield's nothing to sneeze at. So those guys continue to really, really impress us.
One of the teams that we feel is kind of under the radar right now is Ypsilanti Lincoln. It's a big show me week for them as they take on what we have ranked 19 Saline in the state right now. Obviously a big border war between those 2 teams. Tate McKenzie of Ypsilanti Lincoln. What do you know about this guy?
Well, like you said, that program is rising. It's growing. Coach Westfall's doing a really good job over there. And part of that is obviously winning games, but then also getting some kids some attention to be able to play at the next level. And they had mentioned to me a couple of weeks ago, hey, we have a kid that's 6'8", 315 pounds, and he's starting to get some interest. And then lo and behold, this week he picks up his first offer from Toledo. And I think a lot of other schools are starting to sniff around. He was 6'6", 310 last year, so already a big kid, grows 2 inches over the offseason, also plays varsity basketball, so you like that background for a kid that big. And then you watch him on film, and I mean, he's mauling guys. He's so naturally big and strong that he touches kids and they seem to just crumble. He's done really well the first couple of weeks, and that just 2 weeks of film got him that offer from Toledo. And some other MAC schools are interested, but they say over there that the Big Tens are coming. He's already visited Michigan, and some others have reached out. So look out for him. He's not going to be an easy guy to miss out there at that size.
Well, Michigan's in his backyard.
Yeah, I was going to say, educate me. Is he a tackle, tight end, inside?
Tackle, yeah,
okay.
Big left tackle. Could play other spots on the line, but that's what he is for them, and showing really, really good film and footwork for a kid that big this year on that film. So I think he has a chance to be a left tackle at the next level. Usually at that size with that strength, though, maybe you move over to the right side and maul some people in the run game.
He's a junior or a senior?
He's a junior. He's a 2020 kid.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, right on. So another kid, and you've been singing this kid's praises, and Scott was kind of like, hey, there's a lot of people to talk about on West Bloomfield, but one of the guys you need to start with is Donovan Edwards.
Yes, and Coach Bellamy talked about him last year a little bit. He said, we got all these stars, but, we got a freshman coming up that's going to be really, really good. And he got his feet wet a little bit last year, but I think you're seeing this year what all the hoopla and the hype was about. And he saw that a little bit in the summer. He went to some camps and really blew some things up. 6 foot, 190 pounds, built up like like an older player, catches the ball really, really well, though. I think that's what impressed the schools in the camp circuit. Got an early offer from Michigan. I know that's going to be a school that's definitely in the mix. Purdue, Kentucky, those schools have offered. I believe Michigan State offered somewhat recently. He's going to have them all. I would expect Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, all the regional powers to end up offering him as well. But he's clearly one of the best kids in the state. I mentioned the 2 Clarkston kids being in our initial top 100. Yeah. Donovan was also in the top 100 for that 2021 class. So between those guys and Damon Payne from Belleville, that's looking like it's going to be, we're going to have several major national recruits from the state of Michigan in that
He's
class.
A perfect combination of power and speed. And you saw that on his touchdown run against Clarkston. He broke through the line, broke a couple tackles in the secondary, and then ran past the safeties for about a 55-yard touchdown. A guy that can just really go up through the middle and do it with ease. Yeah. Because of what Alan said, he's built. He doesn't look like your typical 15-year-old. He looks like he's 18 or 19 with his broad frame, chiseled, and then obviously he's got the wheels.
Hey, Alan, just broadly speaking, it seems like we're talking a lot more just recently about some really, really super high-level recruits over the last couple of years. It just seems like it's just trending that way, and these young kids that are coming in now are obviously confirming that. So are you noticing this on a national level, that Michigan is just seems like we're in a cycle right now of just super talent all across the board?
Yeah, even with our national staff, when we do our rankings, they always ask, who are the best few guys in Michigan, because not only has that talent come out of the state, but the guys that have gone into college have done really well. Those guys have been playing and producing. You watched the Michigan Notre Dame game last week, and on both sides, you got Michigan kids doing really, really well. So I think those guys have proven that there's not just talent here to be recruited. Those guys have been turning out at the next level. So, and I think you got to credit a lot of the programs that are available now. These kids have. They've all, Max X has been around, Sound Mind, Sound Body's been around, but now you got Legacy, you've got Rising Stars, you got a lot of places where these guys can go, and kids are putting in the work year round. So I think that's why you're seeing more of it, and you're also seeing kids at a younger level. We're talking about 3 sophomores here. They're getting started a lot earlier now. But certainly a lot more foot traffic when it comes to college coaches coming through those schools.
And it's a nice blend of skill position guys and guys at the point of attack, the defensive linemen and offensive linemen, which it's not just centered on one type of player. You come to Michigan and you can, whatever you're looking for, you can find.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just going to say, we haven't had a ton of top and tailbacks recently. That's why Donovan Edwards is such an intriguing guy. But one guy that was Mike Weber. Yeah. He leaves the state. He's doing well, too. I think guys like that, like I said, they kind of pave the way for the rest of the crew.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I think you're right. Some of the top end guys. I mean, watching Ambry Thomas run that one back was really nice at a time that Michigan really needed it. But regardless of that, I did want to mention one other thing. What are some things, right now, obviously, you are in the throes of everything. I'm sure you sleep very little. So
he's got a couple kids, too, that he's got to juggle.
Yes, I know. That's not even speaking on that. So what are some things that you're working on right now that people can look forward to, go to 24/7 and check it out?
Well, we're at a game or 2 or 3 games every week, and we're also watching full game film, so we're always reviewing kids every week and kind of keeping up on not just kids in Michigan, but around the Midwest for me and around the country for our whole staff as far as the guys committed to big schools. We like to check up on them and make sure they're ranked properly, and we kind of keep up to date with them even though they're committed. Kids are starting to take a lot of visits. Official visits are starting. Unofficial visits are starting. A lot of in-state kids going up to Michigan this week, so we're tracking all of that. And then still, keeping up to date with some of these seniors. There's like you said, it's getting earlier and earlier. There's not so many seniors that are uncommitted at this point, but still tracking the couple that are not committed. Darius Robinson, Jalen Graham, those kind of guys that have still yet to make their decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Stock's going up on both those guys. I would say, too, that I think what is nice that also is happening as a trend is that, and you've mentioned this and you mentioned this, is that we're seeing guys who even at the top end of the recruiting cycles playing multiple sports.
Yep.
So, I know that's been encouraged by college coaches now and everything, and it seems like there finally is this acceptance from, not just doing this full time, but playing the other sports.
A little bit of a backlash to the specialization trend.
Yep. Right. And you're seeing that.
Yeah, well, these college coaches during the season, they're so busy. They're coaching their own games. They don't really get out to a lot of these games, so they can watch film. But by the time these college coaches come around in the winter evaluation period and spring evaluation period, we're not playing football. So you see more and more college coaches showing up at basketball games and baseball games. Good examples right here in the state. Adam Berghorst didn't go to a single camp over the summer because he's playing, or in the spring or winter because he's playing basketball and baseball. But every week at his basketball games, there were college football coaches in the stands in the winter at Zeeland East. And so you saw him pick up a lot of offers that way.
Yeah, and they're seeing athleticism. You know what I mean? Here they're seeing him in a different environment outside of the pads. They can watch the tape and see what he's doing on the pads, but let's watch him in person.
I heard there's a freshman over at Zeeland East that people should know about, Boone Benema's brother.
Yep.
Yeah, Tag. He was Tag Bonham.
Tag?
He was going to be
great name.
Tag, T-A-G.
That is awesome.
Tag.
That is a great name.
So actually, at one of those Zeeland East basketball games I was at last year at halftime, that kid was out there putting on a dunking exhibition to keep the crowd entertained at halftime, and he was in 8th grade. He's 6'4". They started him the first 2 weeks at linebacker next to his brother as a freshman. I watched that ECGR tape, and he really stands out. That kid's going to be a big-time recruit. He's probably going to be their next quarterback up there, but we'll see what he ends up position-wise. But hey, 6'4".
Boone's going to Western Michigan, right?
Boone's going to Western Michigan. Yeah, been a great athlete in his own right, but younger brother's already taller than him, so he's going to be a really highly recruited kid.
Right. Well, Western and Michigan getting together this weekend, so we'll see how that plays out. So, and again, watch the sidelines, just at all the games, and you're going to see those recruits now starting to line up all over the campuses this fall. So he is Alan True, 24/7 Sports. Follow him on Twitter, Alan. We appreciate this. Watch his particular recruit reports on our television shows, both in Michigan and Indiana at statechampsnetwork.com, all our social media. Alan, as always, we appreciate it. Take care, bud.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, AT.
We'll see ya. So we thank Alan very much. Now I wanted to get to our predictions. That way we're not kind of having a super long opening segment. Here we can kind of think about it and reflect for a little bit before we get to
let it marinate.
This crucial particular part of the program that I've been doing probably better than I ever have. Tom and I used to do this, and I was terrible. And a lot of times it would just be losing in the most unconventional ways. But let's start. I'll start backwards up. So let's start with Davison at Flint, Carmen Ainsworth. We've got Davison ranked 25th in the state. What say you?
Yeah, Carmen Ainsworth.
At home?
Yep.
I'm going to go with Davison.
I'm going to go with Davison.
I'll go with FCA.
Okay. All right. So we're splitting it on there. I do think that is going to be a really, really good game.
Davison's playing with like a roster of like 20 kids.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're all new.
Yeah, but if you saw them at the Kickoff Classic, you know why. They're the real deal, and Southfield A&T learned that the hard way. Granville is taking on our number 20 team, Grand Rapids Forest Hills Central. I am taking Forest Hills Central for this one at home.
I'm going to take the Rangers at home as well.
Yes, Halleck.
I'm going to take the Rangers as well, bouncing back from last week's double overtime.
Yeah, GRFC.
Yeah, we didn't actually mention much about Tate Halleck on the thing, but he did have a kickoff touchdown.
Electrifying.
And he had I think a 78-yard run also, or something along those lines. So he's been playing great for us, a Mr. Football candidate. Number 19, Celine at Ypsilanti Lincoln. We just talked about it. Ypsilanti Lincoln's player from the recruit report. They are at home. I don't think that they're going to be able to handle Celine in this one. I'm going to take Celine.
I'm going to take Celine as well.
I'm going upset, baby.
All right, there you go.
Upset City, baby.
Good.
Trayvon Davis, another 3 touchdowns.
I would like nothing more though than to have that happen because again, that's gonna create a lot of atmosphere and excitement in that area, and that area needs it. We want that Ann Arbor area to start blowing up again, like we used to a decade ago. Number 17, Holland West Ottawa is taking on Rockford. In this one, I am going to take Rockford at home because I don't think a team can beat somebody 3 times times in a row. Holland West Ottawa beat them twice last year, and I know they probably, on paper, are the better team. Rockford, unranked, at home. I'm going to give it to the Rams.
I'm going to go West Ottawa.
Fighting Oshnaks.
Okay.
I'll go Rockford.
All right, good.
Coach Munger.
He's with me there.
Get those guys primed.
All right, the Battle of the MAC, Chip Valley at Utica Eisenhower, number 8 versus number 15, Eisenhower at home. But I will go Big Reds in this one.
This is going to go down to the wire, but I see Chip Valley coming out ahead.
I see Chip Valley as well.
I'm going to be the different guy.
Okay.
I Ike at home. I think that first game of the year is going to make them better each week, and I think it's going to show this week.
Well, you know, this again, I think is a real testament to see what Scott Merchant can do with this particular team. He has the talent. He's been building this thing, and you know, I like the guy a lot. I want to see if he can get his Big Reds now over the top and enjoy some of the success that Dakota and Eisenhower have had.
This is a team that has a legitimate
15
chance to be playing on the last weekend of the year on Thanksgiving or the day or two after Thanksgiving at Ford Field. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
So these are games that can kind of instill that this team is ready to be considered one of the best in the state. We have them at 8. If they win this game, they might climb higher. We'll see. If not, they will fall. Number 2, Muskegon is at East Grand Rapids. Again, this was a game of interest because, again, no one talking about East Grand Rapids. They are at home. They lost to Zeeland East week 1. They lost by 9. You know, they were in that game. Zeeland East, a good program. Forest Hills Northern, you know, I'm not as familiar with exactly how good they are this year. They won the game. But Muskegon's coming in. Even if they are a little banged up, I feel that they're so deep. And
I don't think anyone's beating Muskegon.
I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yep, Muskegon.
And I didn't say that coming into this season. I thought losing Ladarius Jefferson, especially on the heels of Khalil Pimpleton before, I just didn't think they'd find that.
Thrower before
right, I didn't think they'd find that magic again. But Martinez has it, and again, he's got a. You know, I mean, if you got that line to run behind, you know. You would be excited about it too, but he's really, really played unbelievable.
Cooler than the other side of my pillow, to quote Stuart Scott.
Right,
I mean,
so,
this kid is.
As we said,
the breeze follows him. That's how cool he is.
As we said in the last game, Big Reds.
Muskegon.
Yep. Muskegon.
Until somebody makes them do what they don't want to do and throw the ball, but who's going to do that?
Yeah, right.
No one has. No one will.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of sad. All right, so let's go to our main event, and that is number 13 Farmington Hills Harrison at number 7 Oak Park. This is one of those games that I think is going to be controlled at the line of scrimmage, and I think it is going to be the run game that's going to make the difference. OAA white battle. I'm going with Harrison.
I'm going with Harrison, too, and I think a name that I see as an X factor in this game. Obviously, everyone knows about Roderick Hurd, but his backfield mate, Ben Williams, is a speedster, a track star out of that backfield, and I think the 1-2 punch you're going to see more, I think, because they're going to be game planning for Hurd. I think Williams could get some touches and do some real damage, and then I think if the game goes down to the wire, as we were talking about it earlier, they got a great leg in David Heiser.
Yeah.
So I see Harrison coming out on top.
And they haven't been tested yet at all.
Right.
Oak Park has had
2 tough games.
2 tough games. Yeah. So,
I'm going to go with that. I mean, the fact that they've had that test factor so far. Yeah, I'm going to go Oak Park.
Okay.
So am I. Okay. I vacillated on this one, but back and forth, I think Dwan Mathis will make a play.
Yeah. I think it's going to be. Yeah. Again, you could say the same thing about Greg Carter. This is the year you've been building this thing. It's time for you to take the net to ascend.
He's won a couple districts.
Yeah, but
since he got there, and you've kind of expected when he got there that we would be talking Oak Park at Ford Field.
Right.
It hasn't gotten to that point.
You've got your quarterback, like you had Devin Gardner at Inkster. You've got your quarterback. You've been maturing, grooming. He even got to rotate last year.
Before Mathis got there, I mean, talking about getting his quarterback. 3 years ago, they were running like a 4, not a 1, not a 2 quarterback system, not 3. They're running like a 4 quarterback system. So when you finally get your guy in there, this is the time to shine for Oak Park.
Absolutely. Canton and Plymouth are getting together. They do it every year at what is called the Park. And we've got Canton ranked number 24, Plymouth unranked. If they win this game, they are definitely going to be be in that top 25 without a doubt. Canton 1-1, Plymouth 2-0. Plymouth missed the playoffs last year. New coach. Mike Sawchuk was there basically from the onset of the program, which began in, I think, 2002. And
down in Florida now.
Yep, down in Florida. Yep. The grandsons of Terry Sawchuk, the Red Wings fine goalie.
The Hall of Fame.
Unbelievable. I think this is this is the game that I'm filming, so I'm really looking forward to it. Always do. My daughter goes to Canton, so just on that alone, I will pick the Chiefs in this one. I think they had a really good bounce back win after falling to Churchill in Week 1, beating Northville the way they did, and if Canton does what it does well, it usually wins.
And they talked about how PO'd they were after that first week and how much they used that in week 2, and I think they're just going to keep using that until that supply runs out, and they're going to keep doing that to people. And Plymouth will give them a game.
Yeah,
I think.
And there's nobody that's home here. They're both home.
That's it. There's no home field advantage.
This is a neutral field.
Yeah,
so.
I'm going with Canton.
Okay.
Canton, Darius Robinson, defensive end. He's just going to rip it and grip it and wreak havoc in the backfield. And I think we also can anticipate his commitment coming down the pike, deciding between Colorado, Maryland, Michigan State, Syracuse. So, Darius Robinson is worth the price of admission. You go watch an edge rusher.
Well, a game that's going to be talked about for decades to come. Climax Scots visiting Clarkston Everest for the
coming from the west side of the state into the OC.
That's right,
Northern OC.
Exactly, and Everest playing probably as good as any small school can right now. But again, I'm going to go with Everest. Being at home, haven't seen either one of these teams, so really can't speak too much on how well they're playing or not playing or how the matchup is going to lay out. But we're going to have it on State Champs because we dig it, and we dig it when West plays East and we can get those kind of matchups on TV.
I just know the best player on the field is Nino Master Mateo. He's a boss and a hoss, and he's going to have a big game, and I think Everest is going to win this.
I'm going to go Climax Scouts.
Nice.
Because that's a program it's like Harrison.
Yeah.
Has something to prove in this last year of playing football.
That's right.
And they're going to do everything they can, everywhere they can, to make sure people remember.
Hard for this one.
Everest in a tight one.
Okay. Mishawaka Penn is coming to the state of Michigan from Indiana to take on Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Penn, state finalists last year, Class 6A, biggest class in Indiana, just got beat by Brother Rice in their own crib. And this is not a Rice team that I would say is favored to win any state titles, although playing well out of the gate and doing what they need to do.
Coach K is pulling all the right strings.
He is. And they've also, obviously, the story about Pisca Pink and his father. They've got rallying cries in there. They're coming together. This, however, is Mishawaka Penn's third game of the season. They start a week earlier in Indiana.
Fourth.
I'm sorry, fourth. They start a week earlier. So, with that said, and Orchard Lake still trying to struggle to find themselves, I'm going to say Penn wins fairly easily at Orchard Lake.
Yeah, I agree, and I hate to see what that George Port and crew are going to have to go through another season where they'll probably miss the playoffs. But I think this
if they lose this one,
it's going to be hard to go into the Catholic League Central with an 0-3 record. But I don't see them. Hats off to St. Mary's for scheduling like they scheduled this year. They knew that this team wasn't stacked, and they still scheduled these three
Dakota, East
big
Kentwood,
games to start the year. But I don't see them winning, and in fact, I think they'll probably lose by a couple touchdowns.
Penn.
Eaglets woes continue, sadly.
Flushing coming to Detroit Country Day, an interesting matchup. These guys played last year. It was Flushing that came out on top by 7 points, so it wasn't a complete beatdown. Country Day, one of those teams that can look really good one week and then just look like they just haven't practiced at all. Sometimes lost fairly handily to U of D Jesuit last week, but they schedule that game every year, and Jesuit is a Catholic League Central team. Country Day, an independent. At home for this one. Neither team made the playoffs last year, so it's one of those. As you just mentioned,
Flushing made it to the regionals last year.
Did they?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Below.
What division were they in? That's right. You said they beat Lowell. So that's Division 2. 3. 3. Yeah, Lowell was in 3. All right. I'm going Flushing. I was going Flushing anyway. I was trying to convince myself to choose the Yellow Jackets.
But didn't sway anybody's vote. I was going to go Flushing too.
Yeah.
I'll go Country Day.
Okay.
Flushing.
Get back on the right track.
All right, good. Warren, Mott, and Grosse Pointe South, 2-2-0 teams getting together.
Mott's my squad in the MAC this year in the white. I'm going to take Mott.
Yeah, being in the white, I really like that. And both teams have been putting up tons of points. So this probably will be a high-scoring affair. But, yeah, I'm going Warren Mott, too.
Mott on the road?
Yep, Mott.
All right. Yep. There you have it. So a lot of, all right, good. This was good. So we'll tally it up and see how we did on Monday. Monday is the Extra Point Show. That is where we recap what we just talked about, as well as other matchups from Week 3 in high school football. Hope you guys are enjoying these podcasts. We enjoy doing them. Because of Labor Day, we've done 2 in a row now, being yesterday and today. But, we want you guys to know that, for those who loved the 97.1 radio show, we love the 97.1 radio show. It just couldn't work out from a financial standpoint, and also just because of the preempting.
It was kind of the unpredictability was an unfortunate aspect of it, and that, I think, bled over to the listenership. They didn't know when exactly they were going to get the show. Sometimes we were on at 10, sometimes we were on 11, sometimes we didn't go on until 12.
12:30 in some cases, which, that's brutal for those of us who work all day. It's not like we sleep in till 4 o'clock. But I do want to mention this, and I haven't said anything to the guys about this, but I'm sure they will be up for it, as I know the guy next to me will definitely be up for it, is that when we've been experimenting with our other podcasts, our LTU Sports podcast, which we did live last night at Shields Pizza, and we talk about LTU football every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock at Shields. Come out. There's great drink specials, food specials.
Great job on that.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a nice little atmosphere that's over there. And so we're really trying to kind of build the LTU football brand, and really, this is Southfield's football team, and really trying to embrace Southfield to, hey, you've got college football now. Let's talk about it. And they had a huge win, obviously. They scored 53 points in 3 quarters. So, I think we should do a lot on the first weekend of the playoffs. So the first night of the playoffs, that Friday night, I haven't told Kevin this either. But it would be fun to have a live show.
Do a remote.
We'll do it here. We'll do it in the studio.
Oh, do it here.
We'll do it in the studio. We'll set it up. We'll just kind of lay it out there, and we'll do another state champs scoreboard show, and we'll react to the games as they come in.
We can do it at the whole playoffs if
yeah, exactly. We'll start with one.
I don't want to commit these guys.
See where it goes, but I think it'll be really fun, and it'll be a good way for people to be able to tune in and really get the feel of that live show again. And so I think we're going to plan on doing that. So for those of you who are looking forward to that, to having a live show come back, we can do it, hopefully. And so that's kind of what we're spitballing, and hopefully you guys would be up for that. And I think it would be a real blast. And it would be talk about raw, it would be very just kind of what's coming in, it'll be very kind of behind the scenes, and we'll just be talking about it as we see it. But the great thing about doing these kind of shows
very organic, right?
Right, and
it can roots.
And we can go 45 minutes before we take a break at that point.
Love it.
Yeah, we can just kind of just roll, and that's the fun part. So anyway, that's what we got in the works. We will see you guys on Monday for Extra Point. Take care.
Good luck, Week 3.